The rain had been falling softly all day, a gentle kind of rain that made the world seem smaller, quieter, as if everything were wrapped in a blanket. I sat in the corner of a dimly lit cafe, a place I'd been to countless times but never quite felt comfortable in. The air smelled like old books and coffee, the kind of scent that was meant to calm you but always seemed to make me feel more restless. I had my notebook open in front of me, its pages filled with fragments of half-formed thoughts that I couldn't quite bring myself to finish. Life had become a series of unspoken regrets and silences, and I wasn't sure how I had arrived here. It had been weeks since I'd last felt like myself, months even. I would go through the motions, smile at the right times, nod at the right people, but nothing felt real anymore. The weight of it all had started to feel like a burden too, heavy to carry, and every time I tried to push through, I just sank deeper into it. I had no idea what I was supposed to be doing or where I was supposed to go. I had no grand dreams, no deep ambitions. What I had was a job, a small apartment, and a list of things I didn't know how to fix inside me. And then I met him. It was late that evening, the city streets slick with rain, glowing under the dim lamplight. I had decided to leave the cafe, even though I wasn't sure where I was headed. The fog of thought I was wrapped in had clouded my mind to the point where I couldn't even decide if I wanted to go home or not. I pulled my coat tighter around me, shivering against the cold that had begun to creep in. A taxi pulled up in front of me, its headlights cutting through the mist. I hesitated for a moment before sliding into the back seat, the warmth of the car immediately surrounding me, softening the chill that had settled in my bones. The driver, weathered face and graying hair, gave me a quiet nod as I closed the door. His hands, strong but worn, gripped the steering wheel with the kind of steady calm that only comes from years of experience. "Where to?" he asked in a voice that had the kind of quiet authority that made you feel like you could trust him without even knowing why. I thought for a moment. I wasn't sure where I wanted to go. I wasn't sure where I needed to go, but I gave him an address, my apartment, a place I had started to avoid because it felt too much like a reminder of everything I was running from. The rain tapped gently against the windshield as we drove through the wet streets, the city eerily quiet in the late hours of the night. The hum of the engine was the only sound, and I found myself staring out of the window, watching the blurred lights pass by. "You seem like you're carrying a lot on your shoulders," the driver said after a while, his voice soft but not intrusive. He didn't ask any more than that. He didn't press. He just waited. I had no intention of talking. I didn't even know what I would say if I did, but something about his presence, his calm, unhurried way of being made me feel safe enough to finally let my guard down. "I don't know," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. "I feel like I'm just stuck. I don't know what to do anymore." The driver didn't respond immediately. He just kept driving, the soft rhythm of the tires on wet pavement grounding me in the moment. It was as if he understood that sometimes silence is the only answer we need. But then he spoke again. "I know how that feels," he said, his voice thick with something that could have been sorrow, but also something gentler, like understanding. "I was once in a place where everything felt like it was slipping away, like no matter how hard I tried, I was always one step behind myself." I glanced at him then, curious despite myself. He seemed so calm, so steady. It was hard to imagine him ever losing control. "You?" I asked, surprised. "But how? You seem like you've got everything figured out." He chuckled softly, a sound that seemed to come from a place far deeper than the surface. "Don't be fooled by appearances. We all have our battles, even if we don't wear them on our sleeves. I've driven this taxi for over 30 years, you know. I've seen a lot. People come and go, but it's the ones who are silent about their struggles that always stay with me." I was like that once. I wanted to ask him more, to know his story, to understand how someone like him had ended up here, driving a taxi through the rain-soaked streets of the city. But something in his eyes told me that the answer wasn't for me to ask. His past, whatever it was still with him, just as mine was with me. I don't know how to move forward, I said quietly, my words slipping out before I could stop them. It feels like I've lost something. Or maybe it was taken from me. The driver nodded, as if he knew exactly what I meant. I know that feeling, but sometimes it's not about moving forward, you know? It's about learning how to live with what's broken. I let his words sit in the air, heavy and raw. There was something about them that made me pause, something that struck a chord deep inside me. It wasn't the kind of advice I was used to hearing. It wasn't about fixing everything, about finding some grand solution. It was about accepting the brokenness, about living with it. The ride felt longer than it should have, but I didn't want it to end. The quiet conversation we'd had, simple, honest, unhurried, had begun to unravel something inside me. I didn't have to have everything figured out. I didn't have to be perfect. I just had to keep moving, even if I didn't know exactly where I was going. When we finally pulled up to my apartment building, I didn't want to get out of the cab. I wanted to stay there, in that moment, where the rain was soft and the world outside was quiet. I wanted to hold on to the calm, steady presence of the driver who hadn't told me what to do or how to fix my life, but had simply shared his quiet strength. "You'll be okay," he said as I reached for the door. His voice was gentle, but there was a depth to it, a kind of knowing that made me believe him. Sometimes it's enough just to keep breathing, just take it one moment at a time. I nodded, not trusting myself to speak. I stepped out into the rain, the cool air brushing against my face, and for the first time in what felt like forever, I didn't feel completely alone. I didn't have everything figured out, and maybe I never would, but I knew that I could keep going. I could keep living, even with the broken pieces, and that was enough. The taxi driver's last ride had changed my life in ways I couldn't yet fully understand, but I knew, deep down, that I would never forget him. I would never forget the quiet strength he had shared with me, the way he had quietly reminded me that even in the midst of uncertainty, there was still something worth holding on to. If you've ever felt like you're carrying the weight of the world alone, remember that. It's okay to not have all the answers. Sometimes it's enough to take things one step at a time, just like the rain that falls softly, one drop at a time. If this story resonated with you, maybe it's time to share it with someone who needs to hear it too. And if you find yourself struggling, remember you're not alone. Keep breathing and keep going. There's always a way forward, even when it feels like there isn't. Take care of yourself and know that even the smallest steps matter.